Domo arigato. We are at the Iat Dojo, and I am going to begin the Zenshin Olisi training on these videos, this video series. And I'm going to begin with a small amount of terminology. I'm not going to delve deeply into terminology. It'll come as it's necessary. But there's a handful of things that I want to discuss. And we will not, and as well, with the Zenshin Olisi, sometimes there'll be a crossover from 3 different languages, English, Japanese, and Filipino, or a dialect of Spanish spoken in the Philippines. The thing is that I do not want to rely heavily on terminology, but when necessary I will use it. For example, if I'm talking about inside, outside of the body, I will be using terms that are from the Japanese. So basically, if I have another arm here, so I'm on the outside of the body, or soto. If I go in between the sticks, I'm on the inside of the body, which is uchi. I will be using a lot of the Japanese terminology that students already know and are aware of, but to delve into the stick, or olisi in the Filipino, I will be needing to use some terms from that art to describe techniques or movements or something to that, or some sort of concept or thing to that nature. So we're going to begin with a couple simple little terms, and we're going to go with abanico and arco. Now, abanico means a fan, to fan, and abanico works either horizontal or vertical. So horizontal, the stick would be out on a horizontal plane, and I'm going to flick it with my wrist like so while moving my hips so that I can hit either side of the body like this. Now, it also can go at a vertical where it could go in and out like this. Okay, that's also abanico. So that's when we say abanico, this is what we're talking about. Okay. Now also arco. Arco is a twirl, basically. So what we're going to do is, when we arco, we're going to go down, the stick will roll and down, so it's like this. Now, we do not let go of the fingers. When you watch a lot of people do this, especially in karate tournaments, you'll see people open up their hands like this and just twirl it, and like there, you see, like this. You'll see people open it up and twirl it like that. If that stick gets hit while your hand is like that, it's gone, it's out. We keep our hands on it, and it twirls like that. We don't release any of our fingers. So that's important to do, and it does take practice. We go down, we go up, just like that. I don't know if you can hear that, but that creates a lot of power. Anyway, that's arco. So we may or may not come into those 2 techniques. I do believe we might hit arco, and we always hit abanico when we're striking somebody, at least in the Zenshin Olisi. So there's 2 terms right there. So if there's other terms that are needed during these classes, then I will discuss them as they come up. And I know there are, just right now I can't really think about the terminology until it hits what we're doing. So class number one. Class number one, we're going to begin by learning how to hold the stick. It's many different ways we can hold the stick. I'll talk a little bit about that, and then I'll show you how we do it in the Zenshin Olisi, and we'll discuss the pros and cons to all this, and you get to determine what's best for you. Personally, for me, okay, when I'm holding the stick, I take my non-striking hand, and at this point it's going to be my right hand. I'm going to put it all the way to the bottom. I'm going to take the hand that I'm going to hold the stick in and place it over top of that. Let go of the bottom hand, there we are. So I want 1 fist length as a pummel or puño. There's another term, puño. It means the butt of or the pummel. And we use this to strike and to lock and disarm and all sorts of things. I prefer 1 hand distance, or maybe 3. Sometimes it'll slide down to 3 fingers. Somewhere between 3 fingers and a full fist is my preference. Now there are systems who hold it completely down here. You get a couple inches distance and it does work. I just never trained it like this. When I first started, we always went 1 full fist distance, and that's how I became accustomed to it. And there's more benefits for me than there are disadvantages, and that's just how I do it. Now, when you're training, if you find you want to hold it completely down here, feel free to do that. But if you do this, you are getting rid of this pummel or gripping, and then you're not going to be able to do a lot of the techniques in the same manner in which I'm going to be teaching them, because it's important to have that pummel in there, have that butt in the stick. Because when we start to disarm, a lot of the disarms will be right here on this here. So you can find it your own way. Anywhere from 3 fingers to a full fist is my preference. If you prefer to go completely down, you can train it that way if you want. You're going to have to adjust some of these techniques and concepts that I teach, because that's just not how I hold my stick. Now on occasion, you'll slide up, maybe even grab in the middle to work. Maybe if you're two-handing the stick, it's possible. We have techniques where it comes up into the middle and we use it more like a Joe. But if we're going to do that, we'll practice the Joe for the most part. But there are plenty of techniques in which we grip the stick with 2 hands. So keep that in mind. So there we go. That's how to hold the stick in the Zenshin Olisi system, if you're going to do it the way I'm teaching it. Now, next we are going to work the 9 angles of attack, and I believe everybody has seen my chart. And if not, let me grab it here and get the that chart off there. Here is the 9 angles of attack. This is every angle that any attack can come from. There's no other angles in which something can attack you other than those 9 angles right there. And everything is those angles or a variation of those angles. And we're going to begin by working those angles of attack. Again, this is the Zenshin Olisi way. This is how I've developed it to work for me. And if you have another way, pardon me, I'm going to put this chart up. If you have another way that you've learned it or that you think works better for you, use your way. I'm just describing my way and the way it works for me and how I teach it. Again, we have the 9 angles of attack. I'm going to face sideways here, and we're going to work these 9 angles of attack. Now, I've simply created a numbering chart that is consistent, so when I call out an angle, everybody knows what it is. It doesn't ever change. Angle 1 is always angle 1, no matter whether it's in the left or right hand. It doesn't really matter if it's a stick, if it's a punch. It doesn't matter the weapon. It doesn't matter the direction or the hand placement of the weapon that you have. All these angles are the same. And that way, when I don't have to call out a particular technique or hand movement or stick movement, I just give you an angle and everybody knows what we're doing. Now, a lot of people get confused when we start learning the basic 12, and that's going to be after the 9 angles of attack. Now, the basic 12 are those 9 angles placed in a form of 12 movements. Now, being that there are only 9 angles of attack and there's 12 movements, you're going to be repeating some of these angles. That isn't what really confuses people. The thing that confuses people is that when we start running through these 9 angles of attack, for example, from left, horizontal, straight across, that's 1. That's angle number 1. That's always angle number 1, whether I have it in my left hand, whether I have it in my right hand. It doesn't matter. Angle number 1. Alright? Now, when we start beginning the basic 12, I've had people confused because the first strike in the basic 12 is angle number 2. This 45-degree angle here. Now, we do the basic 12, and some of you may recognize it as the Zenshin Olisi if you have already participated in the Zenshin Aikido class. You'll recognize this as the Jo form Juni. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, that's the first 4 strikes of the basic 12. The problem that confuses people are the first 4 strikes in the basic 12 are angle 2, 4, 1, 5. So when I say give me an angle number 1, this is what I'm talking about. Just like this, always. Now if I say we're going to do the basic 12, and I go 1, you don't go here. Because this is angle number 1. This isn't the first strike in the form. The first strike is angle number 2. So hopefully that doesn't confuse everybody, but it does tend to confuse some people. So let's get back to the 9 angles of attack, and we're going to begin. And all we're going to do is start at the left horizontal, and it's going to go clockwise around in an asterisk. So we have 1. Angle number 2 is a 45-degree angle from the left. We use reference points of shoulder and hip. Again, these attacks can be at any gate, upper, middle, or lower. It doesn't really matter. But for a reference point during training, I will use shoulders and hips as a reference point. Although, if I say do an angle 1 and it's straight across like this here, that could be going into the ribs, that could be going to the kneecap, that could be going to the head. It doesn't really matter the level. It's just the angle in which it comes in. So try to keep that in mind as well. 1, straight across, horizontal. 2, 45-degree angle from the left shoulder to the right hip. Number 3, straight down the body. Straight down the body. Now in Japanese, this is a shominate. Straight down the body. Number 4, just like number 2, is considered a yokomen, a 45-degree angle slashing. But this time it goes from the right shoulder to the left hip. Just like this. Number 5. Number 5 is just like number 1. Number 5 starts from the right hip and goes across to the left hip. The only difference between 1 and 5 is 1 goes left to right, 5 goes right to left. Number 6. Number 6 starts at the right hip, goes up to the left shoulder. Same angle as number 2, except number 2 goes downward. Number 6 goes upward. Number 7 goes straight up the body. Again, number 7 is just like number 3, which goes straight down the body, but it goes up the body. Number 8 again is just like number 4. Number 4 starts at the right shoulder, goes to the left hip. This time you just reverse it. Number 8 goes from the left hip up to the right shoulder. Number 9 is a jab, a poke, or whatever, straight in. Again, this can go to the stomach, this can go to the face, it can go to the groin. It doesn't really matter what level you're going. It is this movement straight in here. So, in a couple different angles, I'm going to show you the 9 angles of attack, and then we'll move on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, just like that. Now, let's move in straight. Let's see if I can move over here. Very confined space in here. So from here directly into the camera, let's do the 9 angles of attack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Just like that. Again, 1 straight across, horizontal, just like this. Alright, number 2, 45-degree angles, left shoulder to right hip. 3, straight down the body. 4, right shoulder, left hip. 5, right hip to left hip. 6, goes the right hip up to the left shoulder. Number 7, straight. Number 8, left hip to right shoulder. Number 9, a jab in. A poke or a straight jab in. So this also leads me into a 2 more pieces of terminology, Wu tick and lob tick. Again, Filipino. Wu tick is a strike that pulls back. So if I start on my left side and strike you, or strike my uke or opponent, and then draw it back to the same side in which it started, that's a Wu tick motion. Like this. Now, if I do a lob tick goes completely through to the other side. Just like that. So, Wu tick will strike and pull back. A lob tick follows through. Wu tick, lob tick. So there are 2 more terms to throw into the toolbox that we'll be using, Wu tick and lob tick. So there are the 9 angles of attack.